It's a beautiful morning in the mountains of southern Appalachia. Matt and I come outside to do a few things in the garden today. Can't do too much, I don't guess. There's not much that needs to be done really, except for cleaning out things. So two of the worst places that we're going to tackle today, one of them is the blackberry bed. We just let it get overwhelmed this year with weeds. We never even weeded it the first time in early spring, and those weeds have just grown all summer long. So it's a mess. We're just going to tackle it and try to get it into better shape, thinking about next year. And then the other bed that we're going to look at is our asparagus bed. And it did pretty good this year. It's pretty well established. But what happened was we put compost in it in early spring, late winter, and in that compost there was seeds. And so we had some volunteer pumpkins and butternut squash grow in it, and they actually did really good. So we just let them keep going. We also had some tomatoes in there. They didn't do as good. Anyway, but we're going to try to clean that out. Matt's been mowing around it all summer, and I know he's ready for those vines that have been climbing out into the yard, ready for them to be gone. One other thing we may do, if we don't get too wore out from those two jobs, is we may try to plant just a few more fall things today. At least maybe a row or two of turnips up in the front. Everything that we've planted so far for fall has been back here in the back, either on the bank in our new raised beds that we got this year, or just in the grow bags that we have out near the greenhouse. So we may try to plant some in the front. That part of the yard in the winter does get the most sunshine. It gets the most sunshine in the summer too. But in the winter, as the winter progresses, the sun gets deeper and deeper behind this ridge, and this back part of our yard a lot of times basically doesn't get much sun at all, depending on the weather that day. But in the front, there's always sunshine. So typically that's where our fall things that we plant do the best, thinking of turnips and mustard greens and things like that. So we're going to try to get that accomplished today too. Looks so much better. So one bed down, now we're going to move on to the asparagus bed. That one was so horrible though. And the little weed that's invaded it, I thought that maybe it come here with the blackberry canes when we first planted them, and maybe it did, but the other day when Matt and I was way up the creek, I noticed some of it up there. So it may have just been dropped by a bird, because I'm sure that up the creek probably was. Anyway, it's called mulberry weed, and it spreads so quickly because even when it's just tiny little bitty, it starts setting seeds and dropping. Now if it keeps growing, it gets as tall, like a lot of that in there was almost at least my shoulder height. I'm sure it would just keep growing and growing, and it sets seeds all the way up. Basically under each set of leaves it sets seeds. So that's how it spreads so quickly. So now that we've got the worst of it out, what we'll have to do is just like at least once a week, if not more often to begin with, go back and weed again to ever break that cycle of the new plants coming up. Now we're going to move over to the asparagus bed, and we were thinking we would just cut it all down, but when I look at it closely, some of it's not went to seed yet, so I think we're going to try to we'll probably leave all the asparagus, but there's sunflowers that are dead in there. We're going to pull them up and probably pull all of the winter squash up and go ahead and harvest it. So it looks so much better. We got all the weeds, the sunflowers, and some of the asparagus that had just turned brown and died. We left the ones that have seeds on it, so we'll leave it a while longer, hopefully allowing those seeds to drop and start new plants. But that eyesore is looking a lot better, and it'll look even better now that we've pulled those squash vines, the winter squash vines up. Matt can actually weed eat around it like he normally would. All that tall grass is where there was pumpkins and butternuts laying. So this is the butternuts and the pumpkins that we pulled out of that bed. Not bad for ones that we didn't even plant. They just come up out of our compost that we put in there. 2 pumpkins and several butternuts and about 4 apples I found. When I was up here picking butter beans the other day, I noticed this growing here. I thought, what is that? What kind of plant is that? I saw it as I was walking up. Then once I got up close, I touched the big leaves. You can see how big they are. I immediately knew what it was. It's a princess tree. I don't know how it got here or why it's there. Several years ago, I wrote about these trees on the Blind Pig and the Acorn. I'll link to it. That year, the Fairytale, it is like a fairy tale tree, it grew under my kitchen window. Of course, we had to remove it. It's no longer there. But since that time, I've not had one come up anywhere else until this year. I was checking on the beans. These are the ones that Matt and I are going to leave on the vine till they dry. Then we're going to shell them out and use them for dried beans this winter. You can see these are beginning to turn colors. I think in another week, maybe less than a week, we'll be able to get them and shell them out so that we can use them this winter. What's that for? Testing, yeah. So Matt got it all tilled up for me, and I went in to get the turnip seeds, and I couldn't find any. Sorry, Matt.
Well, that was very disappointing.
Very disappointing for Matt, but I did find some kohlrabi. Whoops, that was our hoe. Kohlrabi, radish, which Matt don't like, and kale. So I guess that's what we're going to plant there. You like kohlrabi, all right?
Yeah.
Not as good as turnips, though.
No.
I think we planted all our turnip seed. I'm going to have to get some more. So we're going to plant some of these instead of turnips. The flowers outside my kitchen window are so pretty right now. The zinnias and then the September charm anemone are just in full bloom. We've harvested a lot of our winter squash, but this is one that we were leaving. You can see the stem there still green. It's a great old big one. Usually they're bigger on the bottom. This one's kind of narrow, gets really narrow, but all that'll be edible, so that'll be a great one. We're just gonna leave it until it dries out. Oh, you're being fancy today. Fancy, fancy.
Yeah. Have to have a chicken fight.
Mm-hmm. Well, feels so good to get that, especially the blackberry. That's what was driving me crazy. It's like every time you go out, it was shaming you, like, should have cleaned me out. Should have done your job earlier in the summer and I wouldn't look like this.
We're kind of busy back in.
Yeah, but we got it all cleaned up now. Looks so much better. We'll just have to stay on top of that weed till we get it gone. Because I know we disturbed so many seeds, it'll just come right back. I'm hoping we don't get rained on. We didn't know it was supposed to rain or storm or anything, then we started hearing thunder. A few little drops, but they went away. Unless that's them coming back, or is that just wind?
I think that's just wind.
It's been a... Go ahead.
I need to pay attention to which way that's blowing.
It's been about 2 weeks since we worked outside and did a popsicle video, and in that time, boy, the leaves have really changed, haven't they? You can see some yellows and some reds. Are those dogwood? Is that a dogwood that's turning red? There's two.
Dogwood or maybe a sourwood. They'll turn a little like that too.
Yeah. So you can really tell that it's fall of the year. It's getting here fast. I think next week the forecast showed we're going to be in the 70s a couple of days. That'll be nice.
Gosh, yeah.
Matt especially will love that.
I'm burning down right now.
And hopefully the things we planted, even though I couldn't find no turnips, hopefully they'll come up. If the kale comes up down there, hopefully it'll last all through the winter if it gets a good start. We have some kale back here that's doing pretty good that we already planted. And the radishes, they usually do good for us, but they're short-lived. Once they form their little bulb, I think they're only radishes, like one of the shortest things to harvest is about 25 days. So they won't last that long.
Good.
Matt don't like them. I need to roast them. People keep suggesting. Excuse me, I've never roasted radishes, but they say Matt would like them if I would roast them.
I'll try them. I'll try anything.
I just love them raw with salt. And then the kohlrabi, we didn't grow none of that this year, but we have grown it before, and we like it. I had one plant of kohlrabi that I kept going for like 2 years. You remember that? Matt finally had enough of it and pulled it up, but I just kept cutting the leaves off of it and feeding it to the chickens, and it kept growing. It was about waist high, wasn't it? It was huge.
Yeah, it made a mess and got in the way.
I'm bad to let everything grow. In that blackberry bed, in one of the corners, there's a little bit of asparagus, and we didn't put it there. A bird dropped it there, or the seed, we carried it and threw it on the bank or something. But I've been letting it grow there, and it's getting bigger every year. It's not really producing asparagus much yet, but it's probably not the best place for it either.
No.
But I just can't hardly pull it up. It's pretty cool today. It's not humid. You think it is? I don't think it is.
To me, it's just I'm just hot.
Well, you were doing more physical labor than I was. Today is the day that deer season opened, bow season, hunting season, so Matt's already been hunting today.
Yep.
Nice trip.
It was. Seen 2 little fawns. That's all I saw, but it was nice to be in the woods and back in the tree again. I love it. It's my favorite place.
So a lot of people have asked if you can just kill deer anytime you want to. I mean, you can't. That's the answer, but
every state's got its own seasons and regulations, and they're all different. So our bow season opened today, and you just have to hunt with a bow only until I ain't sure it's in the first week or so of October. Then muzzleloading season opens for a couple of weeks, and then it goes back to bow until Thanksgiving week, and then it turns into rifle season from then till, I'm not sure if it's going to split this year, and in years past rifle stayed open until the first week of December, and then bow season opened back up until the end of the year. But I've not looked at the regulations, but I've heard that they were going to change it, or maybe talking about doing it next year, so I don't know. But all the states have their own seasons.
And along with those seasons, you have to have a license, I guess, in every state, certainly.
Yeah, you've got to have a
Most
license,
places, yeah.
and you've got a limit of how many you can kill and what sex they are and all that. I think we can kill 2 bucks and 4 does. And the does are generally during bow season because that's the only time there's any doe days. Would be glad to have 1 or 2 of them to put up. And there's so many. I mean, they need to be thinned out somewhat.
Lots of people like Matt. Matt's lucky because of where we're located. We're so close to the state of Georgia and the state of Tennessee, but lots of people hunt in multiple states. I guess some of them fly and drive and do all that. I mean, go really far out west or something.
Mm-hmm.
Matt doesn't do that, but he has a place he hunts in Georgia, and then of course he can hunt in North Carolina when he's home, so that offers him more opportunity to harvest deer for us to eat. And Matt's like a meat hunter. I guess that's what you call it, not a trophy hunter, a meat hunter. So
yeah, I like the big horns, and I like to try to outsmart them, but I like the meat better, and I'm not gonna go without meat hoping I'll kill something big. I'm just not gonna do that. I like the meat, and I like to put it up, and we all like to eat it. So a lot of people frown on what they call meat hunters, but I am one, and that's just the way it is. I'm proud of it because it's good food. Yeah,
we love it, and we eat a lot of it. Matt loves to do it. It's good for us, and then too it helps. Meat is very expensive. Mm-hmm. If you've bought any recently, you know that. Even just supermarket meats, it's very expensive compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
So it helps with that too, but we really love it.
I mean, no telling what they've done.
Well, that's true.
How it's been handled or what they've done. I know what's happened to mine because I handle it from start to finish.
Yeah, as far as processing it.
We process all our own meat.
Mm-hmm. So it's Matt's favorite time of the year. Oh, but you're probably wondering, well, what about the court? What happened about getting called to court? So Matt got a reprieve for now, at least.
Yeah, for the first session of it, I got a reprieve. I have to report back in on the 29th of this month, or call in and find out whether I have to go that following week or not. So we'll see.
Yeah, so far he got a reprieve from that.
Yeah, the whole first half of it I didn't have to go, so I'm hoping that happens again on the second half of it.
And they contacted you before it was even the day for Matt to call.
Right.
He was dreading calling the first day to find out, but before that they contacted him and let him know that he wasn't needed for now. So he was very happy about that.
Yeah.
Since it was in the middle of deer season.
Right.
Or the beginning.
Right.
The very beginning.
Yeah, and then if I have to go the next one, it'll be just as bad because it'll be later in the year and it'll be getting close to gun season. So
yeah,
I don't want to miss that either. But I think if I have to, I will.
Yeah.
I want to.
Maybe you get a reprieve from that too.
Right.
We'll see. That little wind felt good.
It did.
It had some cool air feeling good.
Blowing off rain back yon way. That little batch of rain just kind of come up or blew up and then was going away from us, so we didn't really get any of it.
Yeah, the thunder's gone too now.
Mm-hmm.
You hear the constant chorus of crickets.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
You like it because it's a sign of what's coming.
Mm-hmm. I just like to hear it because it's outside. It's not drowned out by man-made noises.
Yeah. It's pretty peaceful today.
It is. That will soon be interrupted heavily.
Why?
Because Miss Olive will be here shortly.
Olive's coming. And Corey and Austin, they're going to eat supper with us tonight. So yeah, when Olive comes, things get hectic and wild.
Yeah, you generally have to put the living room back together after she's been here.
And tell them why, though, because Grandpa here likes to play with her.
She gets wild and gets rambunctious. The
Matt,
rougher the better for her.
Yeah, but Matt antagonizes her and gets her started.
Well, I kind of can't help it.
Yeah, no.
But she takes it a little overboard.
She's very, very sweet, but she thinks that she's like a 10-pound dog and don't realize how big she is, and her feet are like the biggest dog feet I've ever seen. So she has no sense of personal space. So she thinks that she can get like on your head or something.
She'll just jump right up on your face.
Yeah, and just be happy, like thinking, why don't you like this? You should love me. I'm great. I'm sweet. She's a very, very sweet dog, though.
Yeah.
She's got a sweet personality.
She's just a little rough and tumble.
Just likes to play.
Yeah.
And don't realize how rough she is.
It's fine to me. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, obviously you.
I've bled lots of times with her.
You rile her up. There's me a little news bee on my knee. Did you see it? No, now I shouldn't have moved. The old Appalachian folklore, news bees, when you see them around, it's because they're listening, so they can go spread your secrets or your gossip.
Spread the gossip.
Yeah. I used to hear that when I was little. People would say that, and I would just in my mind imagine like a little bee, riding and then rolling up like a scroll and like carrying it to the next person. I had a vivid imagination, didn't I?
Yeah.
That's how I picture the news bee, like a trailing scroll behind them, like that they were keeping track of everything everybody said, and then they were going to roll it up and do something with it. Little news bees. All the bees right now are hurrying.
Yeah, they're
their
busy.
Impending doom's coming for them. We were working on the blackberry bed. We'd been working for a good bit there, and then Matt all of a sudden said, "Hey, what about that nest that's here?" And I said, "Well, they must be gone because I'm standing over top of the nest." I'd forgot totally about it, but I'd been pulling stuff out, and they must have left that one.
There's still another one just down the bank from it that I need to eradicate.
Yeah, I think that one's yellow jackets, ain't it?
It is.
All those kind of things are hurrying.
Yellow jackets get hateful when it gets late in the year like this. You just get around them and they get all jacked up, as they say. Now they do with me anyway. All I got to do is open the door and they're on me.
Yeah, they like Matt. I love him. You're so sweet.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I must have pheromones or something that they may think I'm the queen.
And maybe. They adore you.
Yeah.
A lot of people have asked us about Katie, so if you've seen Katie's video and Corey's, they're one of their recent videos, you know that Katie's expecting, and people have been asking in our comments what we think about it, and if we're excited and those kind of things. And the day after their video, I wrote about it on the Blind Pig and the Acorn, so I'll link to that so you can go read that if you're interested. But I think we're like basically what Katie said. It's definitely not what we would have planned or wanted for her to be an unwed mother. That's something you don't want. But that part's done and over with. That mistake's over with. And so now the only thing is, how do you move forward? Well, for us as a family, we move forward by supporting Katie and helping her any way that she needs to be helped, and the same for the child. And it's very exciting. Children are a blessing, wonderful blessing. So it's I guess there's been stages of kind of disappointment and shock and regret or something, and then you just have to go forward and deal with what you've got. And of course, as believers, we believe Katie made a mistake. There's no doubt about that. There's nothing. But also we know, because we've seen her, in her video she says there's nothing nobody can say to me that I've not said to myself. Well, yeah, that's an understatement. But also we know, that God's merciful, and that I'm certainly not perfect. I mess up all the time. Some mistakes in this human life are more obvious than others, but a lot of mistakes we make, nobody knows them but us. Maybe we failed to help someone. We didn't do what we were supposed to, we didn't do what we were called to do. All those kind of things come to mind. Anyway, so, and then what happens is for me, I repent, ask God to help me do better, and then I just have to move on. I can't stay back in that, in that bad place where I was at. So we are excited about being grandparents, of course. Very excited, and a lot of people have asked us what we would be called. So it's funny, we've teased that Corey has already named us because of Olive, which of course Olive's a dog, she's not a grandchild. And Corey did that, we didn't. She didn't ask us or nothing, she just started being silly, saying, Olive, you're going to stay with Grandpa and Grandma. And that's kind of how it started. And then we would tease about, if Olive was here, go sit with Grandma, or Grandpa's being too rough, ain't she, Olive? Those kind of things. But I think those names fit us, so that's probably what it'll be. I mean, I think so, don't you?
Yeah.
Unless Matt's got an objection, but I already know he don't. But Grandpa and Grandma, so that'll be us. So, big changes for sure. But that's life. Life's full of changes. If you told us this time last year that Miss Cindy had cancer and was going to die and be gone, I would have never in a million years dreamed that it would happen, but also that she would die before Granny.
Yeah.
I mean, I even in my mind sometimes when I worried about Granny, and before Granny was as sick as she is now, Granny has cancer now, but even before that, when I would think about someday when Granny died and how I'd have to go through her things and all that, I always pictured Miss Cindy helping me. Because she was willing to help, do whatever we needed her to do, and she's right here, and she didn't have nothing else to do, and I always thought, well, Miss Cindy will be a huge help. And she's good at organizing. Over the years, Matt would tease us, even when Miss Cindy lived in Black Mountain, he would tease me and her both and say he thought that we just exchanged junk. Like she would have a load of stuff and I'd have to bring it home, and then if we went out there, I'd have a load of stuff and I'd have to take it out there. And then when she moved here, it continued. Matt would tease us, say, I think y'all just exchanged your junk.
Yeah.
But what it was really was that Miss Cindy was like the person that could, if we had stuff we didn't need any longer, she would see that it got to somebody that did need it, whether that was donating it to a thrift store or someone she knew that could use it. And in the same way, she would look out for us, and maybe if she was at a yard sale or something, she'd say, I got this. Now, if you don't want it, we'll get rid of it, but I'm going to send it home with you, and you see if you can use it. Anyway, so she was perfect at doing that, kind of being organized and getting stuff to people that might need it. She really loved the thought of everything being useful, didn't she?
Yeah, and she also liked the thought of reusing stuff or
Right.
putting something to use that otherwise would be thrown away.
Yeah, she really, really loved that. So all the times I would think about someday when Granny's gone, I'm going to have to go through that house and do something with all of her stuff, because Granny's got a lot of stuff.
Gosh, yeah.
But I would envision Miss Cindy helping me, well, she'll be an expert in that. But, I just never would have dreamed that, no, she's gone, so she's not going to help me with Granny's house. Anyway, so we never know. Life throws you curveballs, and I guess, what is it? Life gives you lemons. You got to make lemonade out of it. Right. So we are very excited to be grandparents, and can't even imagine how we're going to love this child. Just be amazing, that part, for sure.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah. I think I hear rain.
Yep.
Uh-oh. We're going to get wet?
Well, maybe not. I see sunshine, too.
Maybe not. Speaking of Granny, though, she had 2 appointments this week, and the first one was like a specialized MRI, which went well. It's kind of tough on her, but she's like Matt says, she's a tough old bird. She did fine and made it okay with that. And then we had to go back the next day, and we actually seen a surgeon. And he told us about the MRI results were actually good, in that it looks like the tumor the cancer is localized to the tumor. They didn't see it in any of our other, any of our other pelvis region in the pelvic area. They didn't see any. Some of her lymph nodes in that area were swelled, so they're thinking that's probably it has, got there. But mostly just that tumor. So he was encouraging, the nicest doctor ever, and I would tell you his name, but I can't say it. I couldn't say it. But so very nice and kind. So kind. He took so much time with Granny to answer every question, and then my questions, and just so kind-hearted. But, and honest, saying, the main problem is, she's got all these other issues. Granny has a mechanical heart valve. She's 83. She's feeble. She has vertebrae in her back that were crushed, so she kind of can't get around good. She's got a large hernia that she's had for a long time that's not one that they would do anything to, but it's still there. So there's all these different issues that she's facing besides that. So, but he did give hope that maybe with treatment he could do if it shrinks it, he could do the surgery. Even without the treatment, there's a way that he could do the surgery robotically. And that was, he told us all the information basically and said, now you're going to have to go home and make your decision, and in conjunction with the doctor that she's seeing here, the cancer specialist. So we go back to him next week. So I'm sure, by then, and especially hearing his side of it, Granny will be able to make a decision about what she wants to do. But I was afraid that we'd get there and he'd be like, are you kidding me? You're this old, you're this, you're this, you're this, and no, we can't do it. And there's even a possibility that might still happen. He couldn't say, like he said, a cardiologist would have to sign off and all that. But he was very hopeful that one way or the other, he couldn't offer a cure at her age and all those things. You can't fix them. But that he could drastically improve her quality of life, which would be a huge blessing. Mm-hmm. So we'll take the good news everywhere we can get it, even if it changes in the future, we know. But for now, Granny's feeling good about it, and like I said, he was just so nice, so very nice. The MRI people was nice too. They were nice, but they were not, this man sat with us and talked and answered all the questions, and so Granny's really excited and tickled about the cards that people have sent her, so thank you so much, and the nice things you've done for her too. She's just so excited about all of it, so excited. And thinking about Katie, you might guess, Granny's already crocheting. She immediately got me to order her a little download of it's a cute little sweater that had a hood, that then there's little ears on the hood, and then some other things. So she's already started on some of them. So she's in pretty good spirits. When one day this week our power was off for some reason, like for 2 hours one morning right when we got up and got started. Was that Friday? Was that just Friday? Was that just yesterday? It seems like it was like 3 days ago, but that was just yesterday.
I think so.
Yeah, it's crazy. Feels like it was like last week or something, but it was yesterday. Anyway, I had to go down at Granny's and get something, and the power was still off, but then I was trying to hurry back up here. I had all these things I wanted to do before I had to take Granny to the doctor, and she said, well, before you go, could you just go out with me in the yard for a minute? And I said, yeah, of course. So she wanted to go out. Her garden was just not done good at all, but she wanted to go out there and pick any beans that she's seen so that she could save them for seed for next year. So I helped her go to all the bean plants, and she picked, I don't know, probably a good 2 handfuls of beans, and she was going to spread them out and save them for seed. So she's already hoping about next year's garden, and she said, now I want you and Matt to get some chicken litter and put on my garden so that it'll help. So she's already planning ahead for next year. And just like Granny, me and Matt's already thinking about next year's garden too. Definitely hoping we can stay ahead of the weeds for sure next year, and not let them overtake like we did this year. I'm excited about maybe having a few more raised beds, and then I'm excited already about the watermelons that we had on the bank in the grow bags did better. The plants look more vigorous than ones we've had before, and it could be that we fertilized them more, but it could be too that I think they just did better in that grow bag. So I'm hopeful that next year we're going to plant tomatoes in grow bags, but we're not going to put them on the bank. We're going to put them where we can water them really easily, because they need a lot of water.
Yeah.
Seems like there was something else I was.
We need to figure out some way to get us up on the bank and a little walkway up there that's a little bit better. And it's just I don't want to work on that in the heat. No,
that can be a good
over the winter project. That'd be a good time to do it.
Yeah, but the beds have done wonderful, so I'm so glad that we got them. And the herb bed did so good. Of course, I wish we had a place where we could plant those long rows of beans. We could plant the same amount of peas, but I don't know where that would be. Anyway, lots of stuff to dream about for next year already. We're like Granny though, thinking ahead for the next summer. More rain.
Trying to a little.
Is that going to get us?
I don't know.
Still see blue sky. Maybe we're gonna be all right with the rain. We thought we was gonna have to jump up and run, but maybe it'll be okay. Another thing that Matt and I talked about in one of our recent videos, it's been probably a week or two now, but in his retirement, maybe it was in that one, that we wanted to do some extra videos, not the ones that we do every week, like kind of we'll keep doing those the same, but maybe add an extra one every once in a while with just scenery, just no talking, nothing about us, and nobody doesn't have to watch it if they don't want to. But so many people have asked us, said, would you just put the camera and let the creek run or let the trees blow or whatever. So one day this week when I was gone with Granny, Matt did that. He got some beautiful creek footage and then also some beautiful tree forest footage. So we're gonna, hopefully I'm gonna publish that video on Monday. And again, it's no talking or anything like that, so if you're not interested, it's not gonna hurt our feelings. That's totally fine. But for those of you who do, I know a lot of people say they like to watch our videos to go to sleep. It helps them go to sleep. I've had many people tell me when I read it puts them to sleep, and then they're like, no offense. I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm glad that I relax you enough to go to sleep. And sleep is so important, and I'm blessed to be able to sleep easily, so I feel bad for people that have insomnia and have trouble sleeping. Anyway, so we hope that we're going to publish the first one of those videos on Monday. And again, it'll just be an extra one, so all the others will still be the same kind of videos that we share normally. They'll be the same. Thinking about relaxing, like when me and Matt sit out here, of course we can come out here and sit anytime we want to. It is so peaceful. It's so wonderful to be to live in a place where it's peaceful, where you don't hear, I don't know, what would you call it, a lot of outside noise like you would in town or something. And some people love that noise, and that's great. They're like, how could you live here? I think it was last year when, I remember if it was our freezer. One of the things last year, we had several things die. Maybe it was the freezer. And the gentleman that brought it, they'd come from, I don't know where they'd come from. I mean, we ordered it locally, but they delivered it from somewhere else. But he said, man, how do you live out here? And I was like, huh? And he said, there's nothing here. I'm afraid out here. And I said, really? And he said, I live in the city. And I said, oh. I said, well, see, I'd be afraid in the city. And he just laughed. He's like, oh, no. He said, I couldn't live out here. You're so far back. Well, in the scheme of things, we're not really that far back. We're not that isolated. We're how many minutes from Murphy? 15 minutes from Murphy?
Yeah, we're about 10 miles from town. From
what we call town, which is not a huge town, but it does have a Walmart and grocery stores and all that. Anyway, but when you... recently I had an email from a friend who happens to love number 24, Jeff Gordon, but she was saying that she liked our videos because we took her back to how her town used to be before it got too large. We had to stop for a minute because we had a downpour, but it stopped again now. Anyway, she was saying that we remind her of the time before her town grew and changed. And I'm glad that we remind her of those good times, and maybe we do that for other people. But even in our area, things have drastically changed. I mean, especially since, in my lifetime, I can remember when the very first fast food place come to Murphy, which was a Hardee's. And Murphy don't even have a Hardee's now. It outlived its stay or whatever. Of course, it has lots of other fast food, but many things since then. But even in, mine and Matt, since we've been married, many things have changed. Even since 2020, things have changed. Lots of people have moved here for jobs, for whatever reason. People can work remote now, so, I sure don't blame them. If I could live in a place like this and do my job, I would rather do that. Anyway, we're blessed to live where we do, and to be able to, sit here and enjoy the rain and enjoy the beauty and the quiet, the four seasons. I always say that. So we really, really love where we live. But we have also, our area has seen many, many changes too. So we don't want you to, like my friend, I don't want her to feel like she's the only one. I think lots of people are seeing those changes no matter where you live. And you don't even have to live in Appalachia to see them. Lots of changes in different areas, just like I said, from the move of people. And of course, there's way more people today than there was, even when I was a girl. So that's always plays a role in it too, just that there's more people. And with more people, there's more sprawl, and there has to be more. If you think about pavement and fast food joints, like I said, beer joints, Pap would say. Grocery stores, and and then you got people, then there's all these things they want to do, so it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
You don't even hear the term beer joint anymore.
No, you don't hear
rarely.
that anymore.
I used to hear it growing up all the time.
Pap always said called them beer joint. Yeah. No, you don't. I think the sunshine's come back out now.
Yep, it has.
The rain's gone. We really needed the rain, really, more than that. That wasn't enough, was it?
Didn't even wet the ground.
Didn't even wet the ground. Just we thought it was going to wet us and the camera. I wasn't worried about us, I was just worried about the camera. The chicken's adding her 2 cents to it. Well, I guess you're about ready for dinner, huh?
Yep.
And come unfed?
Yep.
Matt's itching to go back up in the woods. I know is what he's wanting to do.
Yep. I am. It's going to be about 3 or 3.5 months of it, just as hard as I can go.
Yeah. And we're so blessed that you can do it more this year.
Yep.
Not in between.
With a little bit of fishing sprinkled into that, a little bit of kayak fishing when it gets a little bit cooler.
That'd be nice. I hope we can go on some hikes.
Yep.
Do some stuff. Just sitting outside with a fire and cooking supper outside's fun to me.
Yep.
Need to do that.
Yeah, I enjoy that. Somebody commented on that the other day about doing another Coleman stove thing. I love cooking on Coleman stove. I don't care if it's in the backyard.
We usually try to at least do like the first when cool weather really gets here, we try to come out and at least, have supper out here once. We try to do it more than that. But this year with Matt not working now, working here with us, working together, maybe we can do that more often.
Yep.
This is really nice. It just makes your food taste so much better, and somehow just makes you feel like you're getting like you're a little kid getting to go on a trip or something, even though you're just going to the backyard.
Yep.
When I was little, I'd always get so excited when Granny and Pap, they called it weenie roast. Let's have a weenie roast. And it was just hot dogs stuck on a stick over a fire, and usually some slaw and maybe some chips or something, just something real simple. But it was we just get so excited. We was having a weenie roast, and we just went in the backyard. We just go in the backyard. It's a lot of fun. I remember one of the last weenie roast we had, which I was grown, me and Matt was married, but I remember, because I've got pictures, it's a good way to remember stuff, but was at my brother and sister's house, brother and sister-in-law Kim's house, and they decided they was going to have a weenie roast, and they invited us all to come. And but the thing I remember most is her daddy, Robert, was there, and then Pap was there, and they grew up together, so they could tell great stories about each other. And they had a real friendship, even before Kim and Steve was married, but certainly after that. So that was, and there's always laughter and jokes, and I've got some good pictures of them sitting there together. So that was one that stands out in my mind for sure. But even just if it was just me and Paul and Steve and Granny and Pap, it was always just exciting. You'd get to eat outside. Well, ready to go get you something to eat?
Yeah.
We're always grateful when you stop by with us to help us celebrate Appalachia and talk about it, and talk about the things we love, and even the changes that maybe we don't like all of them, but we really can't do anything about them. It just such is the way of life. We're always grateful for you to visit with us. You can take Paul's saw back to him, don't you? Or you ain't through with it?
I guess I could take it back to him if he's still in there.
Oh, was he in the house?
Yeah. I guess. He came up the steps. Did he leave?
I don't know. Look how pretty those pink flowers over there are.
Yeah, they're pretty.
But they got to be moved.
Totally moved?
Yeah.
Why?
They're just taking over. I've had those flowers there for like 20 years probably. Carrie shared them with me, and remember they used to grow under the kerosene barrel when it was there? All this time, all that time they barely grew. They're pretty, but they barely grew. And in the past 2 years, they have just took over. But everything I planted in that bed, they just snuffed it out.
Where are you going to put them?
On the bank, somewhere. Don't you think? Let them spread around out there. I want to get some of those, like those raised beds, but I want the round ones. Did you see? I don't know if you've not looked on their website, probably. The same people that made those. And I think we could put the lemongrass in one, the hyssop in one, and then maybe have one for flowers. I don't know. I'm just gonna make a lot of weed eating for you.
There's already so much of it I can't hardly do it.
I know.
You see how little this yard is?
I know.
And it takes me 3 hours to mow and weed eat this place.
I know.
Used to do it in 20 minutes.
We need to just get rid of the grass and just put mulch down or something, and you wouldn't have to weed eat. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or just let the weeds grow. Weed eat about once a month.
Yeah, I can't stand
I know. Yeah, I know. You like for it to look neat. We never even owned a weed eater when I was growing up. That was just the one thing Pap didn't do, was mow the yard. I never ever seen him mow the yard. And it wasn't that he wanted somebody else to mow it. He just didn't literally care that if it grew up, as long as, he would just like make trails through it. He didn't care. He just did not. He never once
That's
mowed the
actually
yard.
smart. It ain't, you got that time that would be working you to death to put towards something else.
He just thought that was just so silly to mow the yard.
It pretty much is.
So Granny would mow it, or I'd mow it, or Paul or Steve would mow it. But he never mowed it. Mostly Steve and Paul mowed it. Steve and the younger, when he was still at home, and then after that, Paul. But yeah, he certainly wasn't because he was lazy or something. He was probably off working on something else. But
I remember him saying
but
one
he
once,
just was like,
he
it's
said,
just a
I ain't going to be a slave to no yard.
And it's like, I'm just not mowing it. Of course, he grew up in a time when they swept the yard, and got rid of all the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't go in for the mowing.
Blame him, I don't like it either.
That's what Granny Hicks, and when I interviewed her, that's what she said. She said, Law, can you believe how people, all they can do is mow and weed eat their yards? That's all they can do.
Yeah.
And she said, and they're erasing all the wild things that used to grow that we eat, like the wild blackberries or even medicinal plants she was talking about. But she said that's why there's not any, because everybody kills the weeds, and then they gotta go out every week and mow. That's all they can get done, is mowing and weed eating.
She's right.
Yeah. Miss Ruby said that too, not about the mowing and the weed eating, but she said the things that grew in the pastures wild when I was a girl, they don't grow there no more. They've been killed out by people trying to, only grow grass in the pastures, or trying to make it look neat and nice. Nobody don't like a weed. That is funny. Pap we tease about how he adored working, but that was just one thing he just wouldn't do. Yeah. He just wasn't doing it. And he didn't care that you didn't do it either. It wasn't like he made somebody else do it. Yeah. He just was not going to mow the yard.
It just didn't bother him.
No, it just didn't bother him. I literally don't think he would have just walked and tramped down the grass wherever he was going, and that'd have been it.
Yeah.
I have, funny how memories come back to you. I have this memory of me and Steve at Sherlock's. So they did mow the yard, whoever mowed it there, probably Granny. And then down below that was like this meadow. There's houses down through there now. And I can remember Steve making trails in that meadow and him letting me go with him. And he making it, like when you're a little kid, it was like up to my ears. And he made them. I need to ask him if he remembers playing in that. He was probably out there hunting rabbits or something.
Probably.
But he'd let me go with him. He'd tramp down the grass and make trails, just weaving up and down through there. All right, well, let's go see if Paul's still in there.
Okay. Let's go under back in yonder now.